Alright guys, you knew I had to make a video about this one. Had to make a video about this one because some of you guys, you've been waiting for this one for a while. You've been waiting for this one for, in some cases, years. Some of you guys have wanted this to happen since the wild card game in Philadelphia in 2019. Some of you guys may have even wanted this to happen before that. I don't know. But it finally happened, and I know a lot of Seahawks fans are celebrating right now. Per Ian Rappaport, like 15 minutes ago, the Seahawks are releasing former starting cornerback Tre Flowers, source said, a move that he recently requested. An experienced corner with 4 years of starting experience now available. So, Tre Flowers is out. Tre Flowers is presumably going to head somewhere else. I think somebody with his level of starting experience and some marginal amount of talent is going to find another NFL roster in the coming weeks. And he is no longer our problem. If he was indeed a problem, which I maintain is debatable, but I cannot deny that he played pretty poorly over the last couple years. And while I'm not celebrating right now, I acknowledge that this is something that is a reasonable outcome given the way things had gone. So I think we save a little bit of money by doing this. Not enough money for me to give a crap about, but we might save like $2 million or something. I'm not 100% sure. And Flower seems fine with that because he requested this release. So seems like the relationship between the team and the player deteriorated, which to me kind of makes sense. You could see it after the Vikings game, I think it was, when he seemed to have an emotional reaction to the way in which the fans were treating him and the way in which people were talking about him. It seemed to be getting to him. I talked about that a little bit. And then he gets benched and doesn't play at all the last 2 games on defense. And the guy who replaces him looks worse. And I'm sorry, but through 2 games overall, I think you can make a pretty compelling argument that Sidney Jones has been worse. So he looks at all this and says, you know what? I want to go somewhere else. I want a fresh start. And I can't really blame him. And I can't really blame this team for granting that release. So, yeah, it's over. So I know a lot of you guys are celebrating right now. I know a lot of you guys are really happy, but we got to talk about this from a more objective standpoint. I don't know if there's a whole lot to celebrate here. So Tre Flowers wasn't good. I can acknowledge that. He wasn't good. I don't think he was terrible, but maybe he was bad. I'm not convinced of that either. Just a couple years ago, when I looked at Tre Flowers, I saw a player who was developing nicely. He had a decent rookie year, a pretty good second year. I was like, okay, this is following a logical process for a Pete Carroll cornerback who was a converted safety in the, 4th or 5th round. This makes sense. If Tre Flowers is going to be good, his career arc so far matches that of a player who is going to be good. And then in 2020, the bottom falls out, and he basically loses his starting job. I don't know if he ever really lost it so much as he got hurt, and then DJ Reed came in and started playing pretty well, so we just decided to keep him out there. But it was obviously really bad in 2020, and then this year I saw some things that I liked, but ultimately it just wasn't able to sustain. We moved on. As far as I'm concerned, we haven't really gotten any better there, but we made the decision that we made, and we now have to live with that decision. And it led to Tre Flowers deciding, you know what, I don't even want to be here anymore. And I have to point this out because here's my thing. Last year, when Tre Flowers started playing really bad, like look at the Dallas game, the game against the Dallas Cowboys. That was one of the games that a lot of anti-Tre Flowers people really point to because he sucked out loud in that game bad. And there were a couple other games early in the season where he was just atrocious. We had no pass rush in those games. We were not getting at the quarterback at all. Quarterbacks were having a tea party in the pocket. And Tre Flowers just couldn't keep up. but not too many corners can when you can't rush the passer. And then this year, when Tre Flowers, I thought he played fine in the first game when we had a pretty good pass rush, and then he sucked against the Titans. Well, I don't think he sucked against the Titans, but he did give up some plays against the Titans, fair enough. And then he gave up a lot of stuff against the Vikings. No pass rush in either of those games, really. So, to me, there is a clear A to B correlation of Tre Flowers not playing well when he's not getting a good pass rush backing him up. And that sentence that I just said could really apply to almost every cornerback in the league. So, to me, it's clear. To me, it's clear why the Tre Flowers stuff deteriorated like it did. It didn't have a whole lot to do with Tre Flowers as a player. Although Tre Flowers is not good, he's not terrible, and he might not be bad. And the circumstances around him led to this. So I'm not shedding a tear for Tre Flowers because at the end of the day, we needed to do better than Tre Flowers. But my real anger, let's say for a second that Tre Flowers was bad. The real thing that I don't understand here is, how did this team go from a month and a half ago believing that Tre Flowers was good enough to start to now believing he doesn't even warrant a roster spot on this team? And I know that he requested the release, but you, by benching him for somebody who doesn't look any better, kind of forced his hand in that regard. So I don't know how you get things this wrong. This team just keeps getting these things wrong. Several months ago during free agency and the draft, they basically said that we think Tre Flowers is good enough to where we don't need to bring in another quality cornerback. Or at the very least, the guys that we have are good enough. And then during training camp and mini camp and OTAs, etc., you look at what you have and you're like, okay, well, this is, of our guys, Tre Flowers is one of our two best corners. Tre Flowers is worthy of starting on this defense based off what we're seeing right now. And this was a decision that they had made and were strongly sticking with a month and a half ago. To now here, where we decide that we think so little of him, we're going to bench him for Sidney Jones, watch Sidney Jones do nothing good, really, for the last 2 weeks, and then release Tre Flowers. How does a switch flip that fast? How did you not see the fact that Tre Flowers wasn't good enough in camp, in preseason? I know he didn't play a ton in the preseason, but you saw it with Akello. Now, you were a little late on Akello because you still paid him money, but at least you eventually realized, hey, this guy's no good. Get him out of here. So what is the process by which we evaluate players in training camp and practice? That's what makes me furious about this. And I'll say it again, a month and a half ago, these guys thought Tre Flowers was good enough to start. Now they think he's so bad they don't even care if he's on the team. 5 NFL games should not be enough to flip your take on a player by that much. So, what's the process here? Why is everything so dysfunctional with the way this team evaluates players right now? I don't get it. Alright, so that's all I'm going to say about the Tre Flowers stuff. One other quick piece of news I'll go ahead and mention here. Field Yates reports that we're working out Blake Bortles. So if you're looking for us to sign a veteran quarterback, that's your most likely candidate right now. I'll talk more about this if it happens, but I'm out. Peace out. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below. I know you guys are happy, but me, I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with this team's ability to evaluate talent right now.